There was a voice. "Hey Nin, did you sleep well?" It was a memory. Back when things made sense. Back when my life was warm. It was still scary and confusing, but parts of me were coming clear. When abandoning this town and running for our lives was still an option we never took. Oh yeah, I had the best night. After you ripped me apart, I've never slept better. I recognized my own voice. We were in the kitchen. I was making breakfast, and Rowan was perched idly on the countertop, swinging his legs, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Your sarcasm needs work. Wrapped up in his robe. My roommate resembled a pouting toddler. Rowan was acting like a man-child, but he was getting better, which was progress. When I slumped down with a bowl of oatmeal and coffee, I figured entertaining his presence would be better than ignoring him, which had been my initial plan. "Well, good morning," I said, risking a sip of iced tea. I was still struggling with the whole eating while my roommates ate meat thing. Rowan scoffed, exhaling a cloud of smoke. His eyes found the pitch-black sky of the vacant sun, lips curling around the cigarette. Rowan Beck was the main character in his own mind. Is it though? I turned to him, trying to smile. "Did you know you suck all of the positivity out of the air?" He shot me a grin, his teeth a little too sharp. "I'm aware." "Hey Nin, can you grab my lunch from the refrigerator?" Kaz stuck his head through the gap in the door. He was half dressed in boxers and nothing else. I pretended not to notice Rowan's eyes almost popping out of his head. "Put that out," Kaz ordered, and to my surprise, Rowan completely lost his stone-cold demeanor, jumping up and immediately spitting out the cigarette. I couldn't tell if it was a reaction to Kaz randomly showing up half naked, or if he just wasn't allowed to smoke. Either way, looking at the two of them, and knowing their past, the stoner vegetarian was definitely the one who called the shots. I focused on my oatmeal, willing myself to stick it in my mouth and chew. It wasn't particularly hard per se. The hard part came when my cannibal roommates started preparing their own breakfast, which was a varied section of my internal organs. Kaz set it up like a meat platter on the countertop, like I really was Café de Nin. Rowan was more discreet, blending me into a smoothie. I wasn't a fan of him sitting there, legs swinging, downing it like it was chocolate. His weird moans when he swiped at his lips needed to be studied. I really wanted that morning to be nausea-free, but I was already inching toward the bathroom, my body betraying me. "Dude," Kaz stood impatiently in the doorway, running his hands through his hair. "Grab me my lunch. It's the Tupperware on the top shelf with the blended brains." He nodded to the refrigerator, and I caught the subtle smirk he and Rowan shared. When Imogen came crashing in wearing nothing but a towel, she too shot the boys a devilish grin. "Oh." Rowan avoided my gaze, slurping my liquidized intestines. "Oh, it was a test, huh?" I risked a glance at Emmy, who situated herself next to Rowan, leaping onto the counter. He tried to shove her off, grumbling, "I got here first." But Imogen Prairie was not a morning person, and after receiving the mother of all death glares, he turned his attention back to me. It was a test. I stood up, my legs already wobbling, and strode over to the refrigerator. I had been dreading what was inside ever since discovering my roommate's unusual diet. In fact, I had nightmares about what they were hiding. Still, if I was going to be a Bolivia house resident, I had no choice but to get used to their food. I squeezed my eyes shut, reaching blindly for something that felt like plastic. I was already struggling, and their laughter didn't help. "It's not funny," I hissed, pawing for anything that felt like a container. "Oh, but it is," Rowan chuckled, and I had to bite back a hiss. They were acting like children. "Fuck off, Rowan." His response was a giggle. "Nah, I like watching you squirm." "That's cheating," Kaz said when I knocked over a soda can. "Come on, Nin, you've got to suck it up at some point." "It's my blended organs," I managed through gritted teeth. "Yes," Rowan said, "and they fucking slap." "Rowan?" Imogen chastised. But she did catch my eye, her lips forming a smile. They kinda do though. Kaz's lunch was neatly placed on top of some half-eaten hummus. I had to swallow the puke creeping back up in my throat. I could see my slimy scarlet remains mushed into a sort of burger patty. Somehow, it didn't surprise me that Kaz was already trying different recipes with my discarded flesh, while Rowan and Imogen were actually fucking savages, raw dogging my poor emaciated corpse. Maintaining a smile, I pulled it out, held it at arm's length, and shoved it into Kaz's bare chest. "Your lunch, my lord." I mockingly bowed, managing a gritted smile, and his eyes lit up, his lazy smirk breaking out into a grin. Imogen squealed, clapping like I'd won an award. "She did it!" Rowan groaned, leaning back. And this, my friends, this is why everyone thinks we're weird. I wasn't expecting Kaz to hug me, wrapping his arms around me. Imogen hopped off the counter and joined in. Rowan watched idly, his eyes already mid-roll. Still though, he was halfway off the counter, like he was about to join us. He changed his mind when I met his gaze, his mouth forming a scowl. "Get a room." When Kaz left to find clothes, Imogen disappeared into the lounge to play video games. I was left with Rowan and his flask. He kept playing with it, swinging it between his fingers. "Nin." Rowan said my name more like a cough. Somehow, I knew exactly what he was going to say. Call it intuition, or maybe I was more entangled with my roommates than I thought. "Don't say it," I said, stirring my oatmeal into an unappetizing mush. "If she, gets in my head, like really gets in my head, I'm talking full-on fucking possession and never coming back. Like totally mind-controlled minion. I get it, Rowan. Yeah." He heaved out a breath, and suddenly his voice was so small, so vulnerable. Choking up, he slowly slid off the counter, and proximity was suddenly incredibly close. His breath in my face. "Look, I know we're dangerous, and I know we're fucked up with the whole, partial moon possession, or whatever, but I want to be selfish." His voice shattered into a laugh, though it was more of a sob. "You're right. You've been right this whole fucking time. And you didn't say it out loud because she showed you, just like she showed me." I wasn't expecting him to be so soft, gentle. I could put it down to him being moon drunk, but this was different. This was real, vulnerable, Rowan. When you left us, it was human nature to run, to survive. And it'll take a while for me to understand it, but the raw, human part of me knows exactly why you did it. He held out his hand, and I took them, letting him squeeze my fingers. "I know why you ran, and I don't fucking hate you for it," he whispered, and part of me also broke, right there, squeezing his hands for dear life. "Nin, those two are the best things that ever happened to me." His eyes found mine, and maybe I was hallucinating, but I swore I could see the tiniest flecks of orange. The moon wasn't as suffocating as I originally thought. "Fuck," he choked. "They're the only things that have happened to me, and I've already lost them once. I can't lose them again, Nin." When he avoided my gaze, my heart flipped over. "You're okay too, I guess," he mumbled. "When you're not sacrificing us to werewolf-worshipping cults." I found myself laughing. "Thanks. So," his voice broke into a sob, "can you let me be selfish this time?" Rowan's eyes reflected her light, and I wondered if she was listening. His lips formed a smirk, and it was there at that moment that I knew it would always be him. The pretentious, self-righteous boy who built walls around himself just to avoid getting hurt, and who still couldn't understand why I left him to be brutally killed. He was as fucking selfish as me, as human as me. His gaze never left mine, penetrating deep into my soul, the moon's shadow creeping behind his iris. Because if it comes down to saving this town from plunging into darkness under this werewolf-worshipping cult, or saving me, Kaz, and Imogen, I want you to be selfish for me. Rowan's nails bit into my skin. I felt his desperation to stay alive, that self-preservation he tried so hard to hide. I want you to choose us. I would rather have died in my 500th or something body than endure the king. Wakey wakey, theme zoa virak taylor. Ice-cold lips found my ear, a breathy laugh dancing across the flesh of my neck. His teeth lightly nibbled, gnawing down on my naked spine as if they were starving, teasing, yet never breaking the skin. His tongue ran along the length of my back. I could feel his maniacal grin, his face buried in the nape of my neck, warm saliva trickling, pulling, his exaggerated moan, breathing me in entirely. Xor vira velos nin. Closer, and his teeth were biting down, hard enough to split my skin apart. Time to wake up. I woke up, screaming. Pain? No. Agony was already igniting every nerve ending, setting my body ablaze. My bones twisted and snapped, reforming. My spine contorted beneath my writhing flesh, an invasive itch I couldn't scratch. Oh God, like something was under my skin, buried deep inside me, fighting to get out. I was screaming before I was awake, my lips already parted, warm bubbling wetness filling my mouth, the scent of rusty coins invading my nostrils. Even half awake, I already knew I had been ripped apart, shredded from the inside. My throat was raw, scorched and dry from screeching. Opening my eyes was a bad idea. I was blinded by a heavenly glow bathing my face, burning me, stripping the flesh off my bones. That's why I was screaming, why I couldn't stop screaming. My body was tossed left to right, wriggling and writhing under its cruel celestial glare. What happened? The words were entangled in my mind, barely coherent. I was inside Bolivia house, inside my room. A photo of a baby in my hands. A baby that didn't make sense. I didn't have a baby, and never wanted a baby. So why did looking at it feel right? Why did I feel longing for a child that did not exist? I remembered something hitting the back of my hand, followed by voices, looming figures, and familiar blonde curls tickling my cheeks. Cass, Imogen, and Rowan hovering over me. What happened to me? Where did they go? Presently, through flickering lashes, I could make out Bolivia House's skylight, and something ice-cold trickled up my spine, and something like deja vu slammed into me. I was back where it all began, where everything went wrong. I could sense it, feel it, like a living entity creeping across the flesh of my face and down my neck, wrapping around my spine. The light was all too familiar, but stronger than it had ever been, enrapturing my housemates' eyes and dancing across the sky. A sentient, beautiful light that turned them into monsters. This time, though, it was in my eyes, drowning them, polluting them, filling my vision with mesmerizing luminescence I couldn't look away from, burning me, inside out. Taking slow breaths didn't help. My screams ripped from me like they weren't mine, like I was possessed. I was bleeding out. That was my first real thought when my eyes flickered open once again, and the first thing I did was choke up lumps, with streaks of scarlet trickling from my lips, my head jerking, clanging against something cold and metallic. I was lying on something. Was it a bed? No, it was too hard, like lying on concrete. When clarity started to hit me, so did awareness. I tried to roll onto my face to relieve the burning, but I couldn't move. I was strapped to a table, my wrists pinned down. The blood choking my mouth tasted familiar. I almost swallowed a coin as a kid. I was bored, playing in my room, when the childish thought struck me. My gaze glued to a quarter cupped in my hands. I didn't think, placing it on my tongue, and immediately spat it out. I remember choking on the now familiar taste, a thick, metallic tint that settled on my tongue. What are you doing? The voice was familiar to my little self, but my present self rejected it. A monstrous screech clawing from my lips, one that I couldn't control, that crept from deep within the recesses of my mind, ripping the air from my lungs. I was already speaking, whimpering, the words tangled and wrong, slipping from my lips. No, I screamed into darkness, trying to rip myself away from the memory, but it was relentless, already pulling me, plunging me into twisting oblivion. This voice was a stranger to me, and yet, all of me, my contorting and writhing mind and thoughts of my 200th body, did know it. I was in my childhood bedroom. Next to me, a blurry figure. They smelled like raspberry pudding and the air before rain. You're not allowed to put coins in your mouth, the figure with no face stated matter-of-factly, with the memory struggling to paint a real picture. I only saw a moving blur. It was a kid, same age. I could just about glimpse a threadbare t-shirt with the Spider-Man logo and odd socks. The further I teetered on the edge of the memory, details started to blossom. I had a Total Spies themed lamp on my bedside and plastic stars twinkling on my ceiling. The blurry figure folded their arms. I thought you were playing dollhouses. My younger self flopped onto the bright pink carpet, crawling over to a wooden dollhouse. I am, I said. Do you want to be the baby? No, the blurry figure grumbled. I don't like being the baby. The baby is stupid. I grabbed a pink-haired Barbie and thrust it in their face. Fine, you can be Primrose. They sighed, dropping onto their knees and making the doll dance across my fluffy rug. Okay, but only if Primrose is a spy. But we played spies last time, I grumbled. Yeah, so? I like it. I don't like playing hospitals, or Mommy and Daddy or Dr. Nina. I want them to be super spies. They're not spies. I shoved the blurry figure, my voice breaking. They're my toys, but all your ideas are boring. When they jumped up, kicking over my dollhouse, I got another glimpse of this stranger. This enigma in my head that my body knew, and my brain didn't. I want to play spies, where Primrose and Barbie are kidnapped by an evil professor and turned into pigs. And then they become super pigs. I cut them off with a wail. Mom! I wasn't expecting my previous cry to rip from my present lips. Mom! When I tried to reach for it, I couldn't. Whatever it was, and whoever this person had been, was trapped behind walls of my own making. Towering metal skyscrapers, completely impenetrable. But from the darkness, a name was clinging on. Jonas is being mean. Jonas isn't letting me play. Jonas is stealing my cookie. Jonas keeps kicking me. Jonas keeps making faces. My voice grew older, and I found myself skimming through my childhood. There were no visual memories yet, only my voice highlighting fragments of what was lost. Mom, Jonas won't let me play on the PS3. Dad, can you tell Jonas to clean up after dinner? This time, my voice was giggling. Oh my God, Jonas, what did you do to your hair? Mom is going to kill you. You're an idiot. You smoke? Jonas, do you want to fuck up your lungs? Older. 16, or maybe 17. I don't want to be here, Mom, I said, my voice trembling. I was whispering this time. Neither does Jonas. I have a bad feeling about this place, and when I tried to leave earlier, there were guards standing at the gate. I don't think they want us to leave. I was being catapulted further through my life, and yet there was no anchor to cling on to. Only memories in the form of my own voice slamming into me like needles. My voice was suddenly so small, like a child. Mommy, please don't do this to us. I want to go home. My younger self broke, and then she kept breaking, over and over again, splintering into tiny pieces. Fragments of my voice began to come through, a tidal wave of screams, begging and pleading, and breaking. It's a cult, Mom. Somehow, my voice was still strong, still holding on. Can't you fucking understand? They're not letting us go, and they're never going to let us go. You need to listen to me, okay? No, Mom, don't look over there. Look at me. Please, look at me. I heard the sound of my palm slapping my mother's cheek. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. My voice was losing its momentum, a phantom screech hollowing out and barely breaking the sound barrier. I sensed the weakness in my bones, the mental and physical agony weighing me down, the overwhelming urge to just fucking let go. It was so easy. The thought clouded my younger self's thoughts when I pressed the stolen blade to my wrist, willing myself to let go. But I never did. I always dropped it, always let it hit the ground, clanging in my ears. It wasn't clear what I was seeing. It was pitch dark. The darkness lit up in warm candlelight, but I didn't feel warm. I was wobbling, struggling to stand. Jonas, I whispered, nudging the streak of nothing next to me, who quickly morphed into a young boy, 17 or 18. He shared my thick blonde hair and hollow eyes. Jonas was my brother. I had a brother. I was standing in dirt, my feet bare, watching the latest sacrifice, dressed head to toe in a long white flowing dress that pulled at my feet. The material made me squirm, itchy against my skin, but no matter how many times I tore it apart, Mom begged Father for forgiveness, and I patched it back together. Jonas stood in matching white, a short-sleeved shirt and clinical-colored pants that barely fit him. Mia and Tio, they didn't want to die. In front of me, there they knelt, beheaded, their blood spilling into the dirt under seeping moonlight. Mia and Tio had outlines. All of the children brought in by their brainwashed parents had outlines, which meant, we're next. Jonas spoke through his teeth, his gaze going to the moon poking from the clouds. He caught my eye, his lip wobbling. They filled Mom's head with this moon bullshit, and she's going to use us as vessels. Jonas's gaze was glued to the sacrifice, and our mother, her head tipped back, awaiting something that was never going to happen. Mom was really gone. I should have seen it in the relaxed muscles in her face, her vacant eyes and wide smile. I was in denial I had lost her, until I watched my sweet mommy carve into my friend's skin. Speaking of blessings and ignoring their screams of pain, each potential sacrifice had to have her words sliced into their arms and neck. I knew each one perfectly, after having them quite literally nailed into my skull. Thamvi was carved under the elbow, and like flowing water, the rest followed, all the way down the arm. Mom's handiwork was always so perfect. She never showed mercy, tightening her hold on the knife and carving deeper. Their skin was her canvas, their blood her paintbrush. It took me a while to learn her language. I never knew the real one, which were the symbols that twisted my head and made my bones ache. But then Mom introduced us to what was called the water language, derived from our ancestors. Mom said it was easy to speak it. All I had to do was find my connection with her, the moon. It's like talking underwater, sweetie, she told me. It was. Each word was a trickling stream in my hand. So effortless. Water. Drip, drip, dripping. Luhar, Nether, Velilua. The binding ritual, scrawled on their neck, then would be our final plea for forgiveness and our offering of a king to serve her. Lunakar, Velix. Finally, a sill sliced over their heart. Thalix. Maybe they're right, my brother whispered when disappointment began to flicker on Mom's face. Unsurprisingly, Mia and Tio's brutal murder was for nothing. There was no outline to carve, and no light to drown each of us. Jonas let out a harsh laugh, cutting into the silence. I found my gaze glued to the other members waiting patiently for the moon to bless them, which was never going to happen. Mom had been kneeling in dirt, staring at the moon, for almost 5 hours. We weren't allowed to move. The children of the cult were to stand and watch. Maybe they're going to do it this time. My brother breathed, his eyes unseeing, lips parted in a silent cry. Jonas nudged me, and I tore my gaze from Mia's headless torso buried in the flowers. Maybe we really will find a vessel for our celestial king. Stop, I gritted out. I hated that half smile on his lips, that same suffocating shadow blooming behind his eyes that I saw in my mother's. It's going to be okay. My voice splintered into a sob, and it was visceral enough to contort my present body into an arch, slamming me back down onto the table. The memory jumped. I sensed hands entangled with mine, narrow fingers grasping for an anchor, squeezing for dear life. We're going to be okay, I whispered, and this time, we were both older, his head buried in my chest, sobbing into my shirt, clinging to the chains wrapped around his wrist. I pressed a kiss atop his head. I've got a month before the next full moon, Jonas whispered. Mom is going to kill me. He laughed, his giggles breaking into a sob. I don't want to be the fucking king, Nina. I pulled away, refusing to look my brother, now 20 years old, in the eye. That's not going to happen. Jonas pulled his knees to his chest, and I couldn't stop myself from ripping the crown from his head, where it would stay until he stepped onto the altar. A horrific thing made up of human bone from past sacrifices, cementing him as an offering. Okay, so we need to think about this, I said. They need 3 vessels if they can't have you. Mom wants the king, so like the leader, the trickster who sits by his side, and the queen who perches on a throne of glass. I paced his cell, slicing my fingers on the crown's sharp prongs. I think somewhere along the way, spending my late teenagehood and early adulthood in a cult, part of me started to believe. I was already smiling, stretching my grin right across my face so I would believe my own delusion. When I was 19, we came so close. This time, we took 3 out-of-town freshman college kids. That first time I saw an outline, a shadow bound to the soul. Mom really did think we had done it, before the outlines we carved splintered into nothing. The body's blood ran dry into the dirt, and the moon left us once again, like she was angry. I wasn't going to let that happen this time. Throne of Entrails, Jonas corrected me. You're thinking of a book. I nodded. Whatever. So, if I find 3 worthy and pure outlines and bring them here to offer them to their fucking ritual, they'll let us go. And we can get out of here, Jonas. We can run. I caught myself, biting through a sob. I didn't want to betray her light, but I also didn't want to fucking die. That's how I knew the brainwashing had already ensnared part of me and was taking an unyielding hold. I covered up the windows in my brother's cell, blocking out the night. Then I poured all of his water out, just in case the moon was listening in. And Mom? Jonas peered up at me with wide eyes that dared to be hopeful. I was aware I was crying, but my smile grew bigger. We're okay without Mom. Jonas shifted uncomfortably in his chains. His cell was bare. He didn't have a bed or even a blanket, just the harsh cement wall to rest his head. Okay, so how are you going to get over the fence? It's guarded. Well, they used me as the poster child for recruiting students from my college classes, I said. I'll just say I've got some people interested, and I'm going to try and bring them in. I pulled out a screwed up piece of paper. Mom talks about one of the last standing buildings in town that was used for sacrifice, and she's obsessed with it. Bolivia House. It's a student house now, so we can sacrifice the residents. Jonas averted his gaze. So, you're fine with killing 3 students? His words twisted in my stomach. For years, I had felt a constant weight on my shoulder dragging me down, pulling the breath from my lungs. Ever since our car crashed and the cult of Lumen welcomed us, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to be sacrificed, my body used as a vessel, with no family, and my own mother being the one to do it. I didn't know what a family was anymore. It wasn't that we were. Jonas was distant, his broken mind so easy to influence and mold. I could already see parts of him submitting to the moon's spell. We didn't spend time together, locked in our rooms all night to pray to the moon. Mom barely spoke to us. In her eyes, we were not her children. Jonas and I were puppets. When we weren't praying, we were learning her language. And what would happen when she finally took over, taking away humanity's shadow once again? I lost myself somewhere between watching my first sacrifice and then my 50th. But now, there was hope. And if killing 3 strangers saved us, then so be it. I could still get that family I dreamed of, Jonas and me, somewhere safe. I just had to throw away my humanity to finally be free. Kneeling in front of my brother and grasping for his hands and squeezing them tight, I truly believe this future. If killing these people saves us, then yes. The words left my mouth, almost like I myself was speaking her language, like water dripping from my tongue. I'll bring 3 outlines back here, and I won't look back. I won't watch the sacrifice, because me and you both know it's not going to work. Jonas nodded, his eyes filling with tears. The moon was mad at us. You need to carve out their hearts first. Jonas spoke up. You can't make an offering without proper preparation. You need to keep them on a diet of fruit and dairy to prepare their bodies for assimilation. You can't hurt them either. The king will only assimilate with perfection. Jonas shot me a gaze. So if they smoke, drink, whatever, you need to flush all that poison from them. It's toxic to him. I wasn't a fan of his lecturing tone, but this was better than him giving in. Sleeping all day and wearing that crown, Jonas looked far more alert, even with the dark shadows underlining his eyes. You know what to do, right? He held my gaze. Remember, to properly prepare the body, you need to carve the blinding words into their arms, palm, and heart. I said, it's like a seal, right? Yeah, it's to seal her light inside them. I nodded, but my stomach twisted. I've watched Mom do it enough times. I can do it. Jonas didn't look at me. Do you know how to sever? I frowned. Sever? In case you change your mind. Jonas spoke softly. Do you know how to sever her light from the vessel? It breaks the moon's spell, and it frees the body from her. The heartless corpse already made a copy. I won't have to do that, I said through gritted teeth. I'm not going to change my mind. If you do, though, my brother continued, it has to be the original body, the one that is marked and is carved of its heart. Jonas, stop. He ducked his head, hiding his face. I'm just telling you what Mom told me. I snapped, jumping to my feet. He thought he was so fucking smart, with the knowledge of a psychopathic cult. He thought he was better than me because he could speak the moon's language perfectly. I hated that he was still thinking logically, with empathy. I envied his ability to still feel. I didn't care. In my mind, they were dead people walking. I don't fucking care, I spat. I don't care how to undo it, or how to break the spell. They're going to become a statistic, just another number in Mom's failures because the moon clearly fucking hates us, and we're going to get out of here. So, stop with the maybe you'll change your mind bullshit. I'm killing them to escape. I'm killing them to get us away from Mom. I shook my brother, gripping his chin and forcing him to look at me. Jonas did look at me. His eyes were frightened. Do you understand me?